Welcome to the hip osteoarthritis exercise video. The aim of this video is for you to follow along with me at home. We will do 3 exercises over 3 rounds today. You are aiming to do 3 to 5 rounds of exercise in total. Remember, we are aiming to challenge ourselves to get stronger, but always listen to your body and rest if required. For this video, you might need a small weight such as a dumbbell or a kettlebell and a looped resistance band. Remember, if you're unsure about your ability to exercise, speak to a healthcare fitness professional for further guidance. We're going to go through some exercises. The first exercise is a seated hip flexion. You sit down in a chair, make yourself comfortable, and we are aiming for 20 repetitions. You can use your hands if you need to get your legs up. If you'd like to make this a little bit more challenging, you don't need to use your hands. You can pop your hands on the arms of the chair and try to bring the leg up nice and tall. To make this more difficult, you can do this in standing, like so. Holding onto the chair, bringing the knees up nice and high. To make it more difficult, you can try and let go of the chair. We're aiming for 20 repetitions. The next exercise is a sit to stand. Again, going back to the chair, using your arms, sitting down, pushing to stand up. To make this more difficult, you can take the hands from the arms of the chair and do a sit to stand, maintaining your balance at all times. To make this even more difficult, we could change this into a squat, where we don't sit down, feet shoulder width apart, toes pointing forward, and squat as low as you're happy to go. Nice and slow, knees nice and wide. To make this more difficult, you could use a small weight in front, like this. Nice and close, high on the chest, and squat. Again, you're aiming for 20 repetitions. The next exercise is a standing hip abduction. Using the chair, hold on nice and tight, balancing on one leg, take the hip out to the side as far as you feel is comfortable. To make this a little bit more difficult, you can try to balance on one leg and take the leg out to the side. Again, as comfortable as needed. To make this a little bit more difficult, if you have a band, like so, holding onto the chair, nice and slowly, taking the leg out to the side, again, as far as is comfortable to do so. The band adds a slight bit of resistance. And again, we're aiming for 20 repetitions. That was round 1. We're going to move into round 2. Back to the seated hip flexions. Again, we're aiming for 20 repetitions. If you wanted to make this easier, you can use your hands. And if you wanted to make this more difficult, you can do this in standing. I will be remaining seated because that's the level I chose, but you can choose whatever you are comfortable with. And again, we're aiming for 20 repetitions. Get your legs as high as is comfortable for you. Okay. Okay, 20 repetitions done. We're going to move on to our sit to stands. Okay, so feet shoulder width apart, toes pointing forward, going down. So these are the bodyweight squats. To make these a little bit easier, you can try your sit to stands to the chair. If you wanted to make it easier again, you could use your hands. And again, if you want to make it more difficult, you could just do the bodyweight squats. If you wanted to make it more difficult again, you could pick the weight up, keep it nice and high on the chest to add a little bit of resistance to the hip muscles. Again, we are aiming for 20 repetitions. Nice and slow, nice and controlled. I'm going to move on to some standing hip abductions. Holding onto the chair, balancing on one leg, taking the leg out to the side as far as is comfortable for you. Again, if you wanted to make this a little bit more difficult, you could try balancing on one leg without holding onto the chair. Again, aiming for 20 repetitions. And if you wanted to make this more difficult, you could add the looped band around the feet to add some resistance to the hip muscles. Nice and slow, nice and controlled, aiming for 20 repetitions. That was round 2. We're going to move on to round 3. Back to the seated hip flexions. Again, we are aiming for 20 repetitions, but if it's painful or it's too challenging for you, do what you can, whether it's 5 reps or 10 reps. The more we do over the longer time period, it's likely that you'll get to 20 repetitions. Again, if you wanted to make this a little bit easier, you can use your hands. And if you wanted to make it a little bit more difficult, you can do this in standing. Yeah. Moving on to our sit to stands. Again, aiming for 20 repetitions, but listen to your body. If it's too painful or too challenging, you can do as many repetitions as you're happy to do. Again, if you'd like to make this a little bit easier, you can use your hands. And if you'd like to make it a little bit more difficult, you step away from the chair and we do our bodyweight squats. If you feel this is too easy, you can pick the weight back up, place it nice and high on the chest, nice and close to the body, and you can add the resistance to the hip muscles like that. Nice and slow and controlled, aiming for 20 reps. Back to the standing hip abductions. Holding onto the chair, taking the leg out as far as is comfortable for you. Again, if you want to make this a little bit more difficult, we can balance on one leg and take the leg out as far as you're happy to do so. Again, if you wanted to make this a little bit more difficult, you could add the looped resistance band and add a little bit of resistance to the hip muscles. Again, aiming for 20 repetitions, but listen to your body. If it's too much, you can just do less or do the regressions. So we finished 3 rounds of exercises. Well done, everyone. If you're feeling up to it, we'd suggest trying to do up to 3 to 5 rounds of exercise in a typical workout. We suggest trying to do these rounds of exercises 2 to 3 times per week. Remember, consistency is key.